In the 1950s, while the trials are happening in Puerto Rico, Mr. Clarence Gamble over here, he was quite the busy man. He founded this nonprofit called the Pathfinder Fund, which I learned has nothing to do with a car. But it actually is still a thing today, and it's now called Pathfinder International. Still nothing to do with a car, though. The company's goal was meant to focus on better reproductive health for lower income territories, which sounds amazing, right? Like, wow, who doesn't want that? But, and this is a big but, Pathfinder International released a statement this year, 2021, admitting that Gamble's motivation for this company was racially biased and actually unscientific. Yeah. They also go on to say that Clarence Gamble, without a doubt, was a eugenicist. Well, you're probably wondering, what the hell is a eugenicist? I know. Look, I'm gonna put myself on blast here and show you how dumb I am. Well, I'll tell you how dumb I am, because I personally thought it had to do with plants. It has nothing to do with plants. It's actually much worse than plants. Okay, eugenicists, they kind of play Dr. Frankenstein, trying to create the perfect society by breeding out people with less desirable traits, like the poor, uneducated, and the mentally ill. And mind you, less desirable is debatable, but to the more extreme eugenicist, it was anything that wasn't blonde hair, blue eyes, and light-skinned. If this all sounds familiar, this is similar to what the Nazis did in World War II. And I heard that didn't go over so well. So when somebody like Gamble is bringing something we now know to be rooted in eugenics to exclusively places where people of color live, to put it bluntly, there seems like they're trying to get rid of poor people of color. Remember when Clarence Gamble was deciding who was fit and not fit? Well, that's actually considered eugenics, babe, and it ain't a good thing. Remember at the beginning when I mentioned Clarence Gamble and Margaret Sanger? They both shared this interest in population control, overpopulation, blah, 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 blah. You get it. Well, it turns out Mr. Gamble and Margaret, they had worked on a project once before. It was a program called the Negro Project. Was this also based off eugenics, you ask? Question mark? Were they just trying to get rid of a certain type of person, you think? Are you seeing a pattern here, or is it just me? We're back. So it's funny, let me tell you why it's funny, because today's episode started off with me just being a curious cat that I am, and I wanted to know where birth control came from. And I think beer was involved too. Anyway, then we did some digging around, and the next thing you know, we're just lost in a sea of racism. It's just like a plot twist I really didn't see coming. Did you see it coming? Okay, well, shit, I'm sorry you're so smart. Oh my God. Anyways, with that being said, let's learn a little bit more about the Negro Project, which took place in 1939. So this was the project that Gamble and Margaret did together with the goal of helping Black communities get affordable birth control, which again sounds like, hey, this isn't so bad, Bailey. What's wrong with that? But when you take a little moment to look at the project and the memo sent while it was being made, oh girl, it's bad. It's real bad. I'm gonna read you a few highlights from the proposal. Again, I didn't write this. Margaret and Mr. Gamble wrote this, okay? Me. Okay. They wrote that Southern Black people breed carelessly and disastrously. These are not my words. It's in the proposal. But maybe, she was just quoting one of the founders of the NAACP when she wrote that. So that leads us to the memos Gamble and Margaret sent each other during this time, where Mr. Gamble wrote that Black people are less intelligent and fit. There's that word again, fit. Gamble seems to really like that word. Now, this innocent disguise of wanting to help the Black community get birth control completely fell off and revealed a truth that historian Linda Gordon even refers to as white supremacy, wrapped up in a pretty bow called the Negro Project. And to be fair, Margaret did lose control over the project, and outside forces decided against setting up clinics run by local Black doctors and instead gave funding to clinics run by white doctors. but members of the Black community supported this project and they wanted to be part of it because they believed in what it stood for. So if you're gonna come into this community, call this the Negro Project, you're gonna involve us in the project. And that's something a lot of historians say, that Margaret wanted to be more supportive. That might be true. But Margaret, other historians point out she didn't want to give them any leadership roles because she didn't think anybody would be able to do a better job than her at running the project, or maybe she just didn't want anyone hijacking her project. The truth is that there's a lot of proof that Margaret was into some sketchy shit. And there's also a lot of proof that maybe she wanted to do good things. If there's one thing we can all agree on, at least, it's Mr. Clarence Gamble is a massive dick. And Black activists were super suspicious of these types of family planning programs anyway. I mean, it smelled of eugenics, especially given our country's history. And they believed that like this link meant the programs were designed to destroy their race. Even if they weren't designed to do that, the lack of representation just reaffirmed that belief. So they spoke out. And because none of the leadership roles were given to members of the Black community, people lost interest in the Negro Project, which just led to it falling apart and coming to an end. And Margaret was just crushed because the house she was trying to build just went up in flames. Aw, poor Marg. But the Black community, I mean, their suspicions about Margaret's intentions weren't necessarily wrong, because Margaret had shown time and time again what her true beliefs were. For example, she was a big fan of eugenics. Oh my God, there was this one time in 1921 when Margaret wrote an article that, quote, "The most urgent problem today is how to limit and discourage the overfertility of the mentally and physically defective." What does that even mean, you know? Well, according to Margaret and Gamble, some people were just a little dumb. And if you give dumb people birth control, then there won't be any more dumb people. Great, you know? God, I'm rolling my eyeballs. If you are not watching this over on YouTube, I am rolling my eyeballs. Margaret was basically saying there needed to be a way to make sure that dumb people stop breeding, okay? Problem solved. And yeah, she said that she didn't believe this about people of color, but to be honest, this next part's gonna make her saying that look really incorrect, I should say. Because the hits keep coming with Margaret. She spoke at a Women of the Ku Klux Klan rally in 1926. Yeah, I know, shocking. There's a Women of the Ku Klux Klan, get that? Ain't that some shit? It's the wives of the actual Klan members, but not actually the KKK. You know, it's like racism with less calories. Diet racism, I guess, you know. Because women couldn't technically join in the KKK during the 1920s, so they had their own little version. I'm not sure if there were hoods involved, but same shit, different day, you know? So, wait a minute. If Margaret's involved in all this bullshit, does that mean the whole Puerto Rico project maybe wasn't really there to help anybody? What was this all about? Women's rights? This doesn't sound like women's rights. I don't hear any mention about women's rights, okay? I don't know about you guys, but all I heard was about how Margaret, Mr. Gamble, and even Mr. Pinky the scientist were all about population control and how racist their ideology was.